Yu Yu Hakusho is the story of a teenage boy named Yusuke Urameshi, a Yakuza-like punk, a street thug delinquent with a shoddy home life and a chip on his shoulder, and then he dies. Instead of this being the end of the series, it's the first episode, and instead of being whisked away to an alternate reality where he gets a harem and superpowers,
he's dead. What?
Yusuke is left to think about his life, and we're left to think about his death. In the midst of cursing out a little boy's ignorance about traffic safety, Yusuke jumped in front of a speeding car in order to save that boy's life, sacrificing his own. A move nobody saw coming from a good-for-nothing street brawler, nobody including the bureaucracy of the afterlife, leaving Yusuke to roam as a ghost with Botan, the guide of the river Styx. It isn't until his own funeral that Yusuke learns a valuable lesson about life, about what it means to have made connections and how humans feel when those connections are severed prematurely. His neglectful mother mourns his passing by drinking herself into catatonia. His greatest enemy, Kuwabara, is inconsolable at the loss of his arch nemesis and favorite rival. A childhood friend, Keiko, whom Yusuke sexually harasses on a daily basis, is devastated. Even the principal of the school Urameshi hated so much is pained by the loss of potential that was Yusuke. The takeaway is, no matter how much you may hate yourself and the world around you, you have irrevocably touched people you never expected, and if you disappeared, you would leave behind a hole that simply can't be filled. If I was to encapsulate everything I enjoy about the medium of anime, it would just turn into Yu Yu Hakusho. If anime is truly punk rock cartoons, Yu Yu Hakusho stands as a shining example of what anime is. Unlike so many shonen battle stories, the series takes time to delve into its cast, creating a troupe of complex characters to guide you through its narrative. Their relationships with each other, the world around them, and their place in it are put on display for the audience to fully engage with until the final episode. For myself, Yu Yu Hakusho was a life-changing experience viewed through the perspective of Yusuke Urameshi. To date, it is still my favorite anime of all time. So without further ado, let's just get into it. On Saturday, February 23rd, 2002 at 11 p.m., I was sitting in my grandmother's living room watching TV. That night, 18 years ago, a brand new show was premiering on Adult Swim. Not that I knew or cared, but when it came on, I was glued instantly. It was Yu Yu Hakusho, and I was 10. There was something immediately visceral about the attitude of the show. There was mild cursing, blood, panties, demons, death, superpowers. I had already seen Ninja Scroll and Heavy Metal 2000, but to catch something like this on TV at the time was new. It felt kinda naughty, but it was accessible to a young kid forming his personality. Eventually, an edited version of the show made it onto the standard Toonami block, and by that time I had picked up a guitar and started my first punk band with some friends from middle school. Looking back now, I understand exactly why Yusuke in this anime in general stuck out to me as much as it did, and why I continue to rewatch it as much as I do. During my formative years when it was airing, its themes resonated with what I was going through. I was a dissenting, arrogant young male with a chip on his shoulder and a lot to prove. I felt poor in my middle-class white bread town, and I didn't really fit in with the kids in school. I was getting heavily involved in the political punk scene. I was angsty and pissed off at our government and at the war, at our country, at pretty much everything. Yusuke, like most young men, is polarized, a fierce, hardened asshole on the outside and a bleeding heart on the inside. Duality is woven into this entire show with such natural and eloquent methods that it's easy to forget that you're watching an animation instead of a real person growing up. The same goes for Kuwabara and the rest. Even the cynical Hiei has Shrek-like layers that are continually peeled back as the narrative travels along its path.
It's best to watch her from a distance. Is that why you got that fake eye put in? Nonsense.
I felt a certain kinship with these characters that is rare and special. While I wanted to create loud, fast, aggressive music, I only did it with the intention of getting across a point, that there's injustice in this world. Injustice for people that bled like everyone else but didn't fit the mold society carved out for them. I wanted to entertain, but more importantly, to educate. Guided by the ironic in nature Grim Reaper Botan, Yusuke eventually regains his life and becomes an agent of the spirit world, a spirit detective, finally cementing the idea of the show's title, Yu Yu Hakusho, literally Poltergeist Report. It becomes his job to investigate supernatural activity in the human world caused by the demon world. world. Because of its very specific style, Yu Yu Hakusho stands as a period piece as well as an action show. It has that 90s anime appeal, but more than that, the characters dress realistically and change clothes regularly. Hairstyles, vehicles, the high-waisted pants all work together to paint a realistic picture of the human world our hero occupies. This also works to solidify an emotional attachment to the series cast. Dualistic natures and a constant struggle against injustice while still working to retain optimism and finding time to laugh are qualities not often fleshed out in fight mangas. While Dragon Ball Z will always have a place in my heart, there's only one filler episode I can recall that I enjoyed. That of course is the episode where Piccolo and Goku learn to drive, but other than that I was waiting for the fight. Even still, some of the fights would get boring after 5 episodes of yelling and exposition. I never had that issue with Yu Yu Hakusho because the characters seem more like real people, like real friends, and watching them interact is just fun because they have the depth to be fun and carry a moment by themselves.
You believe in mercy, don't you?
No.
There is consistency to their personalities that allow them to stand out in a conversation as well as a battle. For example, in the Saint Beast arc, Hiei goes from completely hating his team to developing an actual relationship with his group. It's a complete turnaround from wanting to kill Yusuke to finding a semblance of respect for him. That's not to say he doesn't continue to be an asshole, but there's a glimmer of hope for him under all that cynicism. While character and world development are very well handled in this anime, it doesn't take away from the battles, which are not only top tier, but above and beyond. Together, Team Urameshi rounds out a Dragon Quest-like party. You have Yusuke the monk, who has extraordinary fighting ability coupled with the iconic awesomeness of a spirit gun. I mean, seriously, like, it doesn't get any better than that. It's simply a stroke of genius. And Kuwabara is the warrior character, a tank type who often gets the worst beatings but comes through in the end with his sword. Kurama is a whip-wielding mage capable of healing and killing with fluid ease, and then there's Hiei the thief, who can also summon a dragon from hell. I don't know. It's an incredibly well-balanced team along with their supporters and foils. Together they take off against a rainbow of enemies who look like they were ripped from my favorite arcade fighter of all time, Darkstalkers. Yusuke is employed by the son of the Buddhist ruler of the dead, King Yema. This son, Koenma, is a multi-millennia-old toddler who also plays the role of grizzled police chief. Kuwabara's sister is tougher than he is, but more comfortable with her softer side as well, and Botan is a sister type Yusuke never had, and his teacher Genkai is a parental figure Yusuke was denied by his own mother. A key theme when all the puzzle pieces are put in place is that family is what you make it. A broken home isn't necessarily a broken world, it's just a crummy piece of it. And together, this ragtag group, occasionally joined by Keiko and Yukina, forms a family unit you can't help but enjoy watching interact with its world and plot devices. Which then leads us to arguably the pinnacle of the series, the Dark Tournament. When Yusuke comes face to face with the younger Toguro, for the first time in his life, he hits a wall. Toguro is something seemingly impossible to overcome, a strength so superior it's staggering. After his utter psychological defeat, Yusuke and his friends are forced into the Dark Tournament, a brutal fighting competition hosted by corrupt, despicable humans. The irony in this scenario is exactly what Yu Yu Hakusho is all about. Up until this point, it's Yusuke versus the supernatural, the demons and the poltergeist. But as the show progresses, so does the intricacy in its writing. No longer is everything so cut and dry, and for the first time, the lines between humans and demons begin to blur. The Dark Tournament is run by greedy, corrupt businessmen wishing to gamble on life and death. It draws some of the nastiest demons looking for the ultimate prize, which is a wish for anything they want. Being special guests, Team Urameshi has no option but to fight lest they and their loved ones be assassinated. And naturally, the audience is mostly demons who want nothing more than to see the bastard spirit detective gruesomely killed in a brawl. The entire spectacle is set up against Yusuke and friends, so once again, Yusuke is the underdog. However, instead of corrupt teachers out to ruin his social standing, it's corrupt, powerful men out to stop him from interfering with their criminal dealings with demons. The entire event being rigged makes each and every accomplishment that much more satisfying and each and every loss that much more devastating. The arc is less about fighting the big bad, but once again about overcoming injustice and dealing with corruption. The latter of those themes is far more applicable to the average person. It's very rare to have a singular, horrible enemy. It's far more likely to be muddled by faceless organizations with power over you. And just when it seems like things can't get any worse, Toguro kills Genkai. While still covered up by his usual brashness, Yusuke's relationship with Genkai is extremely intimate and important to him.
Okay, you're a great lawnmower. Does this have a point, or are you just bragging?
She is truly the only adult role model he ever had and the only teacher he ever respected. Before her death, she gives Yusuke one last gift and passes on her power to him. And accepting this part of her into himself is agonizing. It almost kills Yusuke. During this trial, his spirit beast Pooh is also racked with pain. Pooh is a reflection of Yusuke's inner soul, and at this time, he's still a cute little Kirby-looking character who is extremely attached to Keiko. While Yusuke suffers, Pooh comes to him in an attempt to help but collapses. Watching Pooh struggle, Yusuke comes to his senses, and these two sides of the same coin come together to pull themselves through. It's a metaphor of self-acceptance. While this could be the final takeaway in a less rounded anime, Yu Yu Hakusho moves right on through to grief. While self-acceptance is important, even mandatory for a healthy person, it's not the only struggle we go through in life. The death of Genkai is incredibly hard on Yusuke in particular. Neglect is sometimes worse than physical or mental abuse. It can leave a person resentful, bitter, closed off, and the barrier they create is to protect that sufferer from allowing themselves to be neglected again, because neglect comes from care and attachment. While Genkai represented things that Yusuke hates,
You've always quit anytime the answer wasn't served on a silver plate.
Shut up!
like power and authority and responsibility,
This time I won't go easy.
she never gave up on him and spoke to him on his level.
Does it hurt? Slacker! Did you come all the way here just to give me more of your crap?
I promise I'll push as hard as I can.
She became an adoptive mother figure. She showed him how to care for another person and how to accept himself, and then she dies.
Come on, Genkai! What am I supposed to do?
Now, Yusuke must learn how to move on alone again, but alone for a whole new reason. He has to learn what true strength is alongside his friends instead of being taught by a mentor. He has to learn the difference between abandonment and death, and how to move forward and connect with people despite the risk of both. But then again, that's what Yusuke has been moving towards all along. His death was the first brutal reminder of what can happen if you're connected to people around you, even ones you barely know. The characters in all their depth show the consequences and benefits of attachment. While attachment can bring suffering, the benefits of intimacy can be life-changing in a good way. Beneath Yusuke's hard outer shell is a heart of gold that must come out, but is tested by the cruel reality that nothing lasts forever besides conflict. The learned fact that human nature and the nature of demons are not so far apart, and the continuing escalation of dire circumstances leaves Yusuke to wonder about the purpose of existence while simultaneously giving that existence purpose by connecting it with others. And it doesn't even stop there. As the show continues to progress, Yusuke continually comes up against philosophical disturbances regarding the nature of humanity, and duty, and more. New power is a new door to tests of will and character. Wrapped up in a battle shonen with a serious attitude is a roadmap to adulthood. Behind the vicious battles and extreme twisting, warped animation of these conflicts lies a story about a 14-year-old and his friends learning what it means to be alive, what it means to care about something and feel responsible without letting that responsibility devour you. It's important to remember that you can't take on the world alone, that there are issues that you can't solve by yourself. Even Yu Yu Hakusho's creator Yoshihiro Togashi himself had to throw in the towel at the end, admitting that the stress and pressure was too much to continue publication of his manga. Sometimes there are challenges we can't completely overcome, but the fight, the effort, is what defines us. The greatest challenge for a boy whose story begins with self-sacrifice is learning that his life is just as precious as the others around him, that the strands of death connect all of us. It's clear that this street punk feels that life is precious, but it's accepting that his own is equally so, which allows him to find the strength to continue to fight. You can't only live for others, and you can't only live for yourself. It's finding the balance between the two that leads to a brighter future. Obviously, we barely even scratched the surface of Yu Yu Hakusho. I mean, there's just so much that we could cover. Every single one of the characters could have their own episode, so make sure you subscribe and you hit that bell because we will definitely be doing more in the future. Like I said, this anime is still to date my favorite of all time. I don't know what it is, but there's something that keeps me coming back to it over and over again. So I'd like to be able to share as much of that with you guys as possible. Keep your eyes open because next week we have a very important video that is coming out midweek. I know that's strange for us. Don't worry, we will still have another regular full Bonsai Pop video for you on Saturday. And with everything out of the way, it's time to congratulate our newest Super Saiyan God, Calamity Cookie. My dude, thank you so much for joining up to Patreon and just like just coming in like a freaking hurricane, man. And your message to me was extremely, extremely kind and really made my day. So thank you so much. That is Calamity Cookie. I'm Mike. This is Bonsai Pop. Thank you so much for watching and making it till the end. Next time we're covering Hunter x Hunter. Check out our social media. It's down there. Twitter, Bonsai_Pop. Instagram, Bonsai_Pop. Check those out. And I'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.